Okay, first of all, your name?
Chris Branson,
E-R-A-N?
S-O-N.
S-O-N, okay. And you're an attorney specializing in...
Child Protective Services defense work.
Tell me a little bit about this case, how you first came into it, and what you've seen through the whole thing on this.
Mr. Shorten called me into the case a little bit, not late, but in the middle of it, as it were. I was not the first attorney on the case, but I started out after he called by looking at the news coverage on the situation, and said right there on the news that the condition of the home was not why they were all there. It was based on how the kids were living when they were picked up. But the way the kids were living had nothing to do with how the parents were taking care of them. The parents were incarcerated at the time. They had left the children with an aunt, and the aunt was the one that had dropped the ball. So I went into it asking the question of the CPS workers and such, why are we here? The parents are back. They've cleaned up the property. They've fixed the problems that the aunt caused. Why are they here? And the closest answer I got was, well, they should have known from prison what was going on back here at the house. That is, ludicrous. This case should have been over when the parents got home, cleaned the place up, and took back their parental responsibilities. Unfortunately, CPS doesn't see it that way. Whenever they take a child back into state custody, there are certain things every parent has to do to get the children back into their own custody, whether it makes sense or not. So we do have the children back home, but in order to get CPS completely out of their lives, they have to take parenting classes, even though there's no evidence that they are bad parents, have to take psychological testing, even though there's no evidence that they have any psychological problems. They have to take counseling, even though no one can tell me what is the problem that they need to take counseling for. But that's just the way it is with CPS. Nobody gets their kids back without doing something. And unfortunately, the courts are inclined to agree with them.
CPS, you've got different groups. Okay, these foster parents. Tell me how the foster parent system actually works. I mean, it's just a oh, she's good, let's go ahead and use her. There's more to it than that.
There is training involved. I don't know exactly what that training is, but there is extensive training. And I also understand that there are foster agencies that it's a pretty big business. They go out and find homes, facilities to place these kids with, and they act as a liaison between the actual caregiver and Child Protective Services. They have contracts with CPS.
So, in other words, your middleman, basically, it's not free, or your foster parent. Your foster parents get paid also.
Correct.
How do the pay scale, how do they work that?
I don't know what the per diem is. I know it is based on a per diem. They get paid so much per child per day. And the more difficult the child is, quote unquote, to take care of, the more money per day they make. And I have had former foster caregivers tell me that they were under pressure by their agencies to fudge the reports a little bit, put on the reports that the children were more in need of care than they actually were, so as to get them rated a more difficult case, and then everybody got paid more. I don't know how widespread that is, but I do know it goes on.
What's the most, you've been doing this how long with CPS cases or child protective cases?
I've been doing this probably close to 10 years now. About the past 5, it's been the majority of my practice.
What's the most kids you've seen in a foster home?
In a single foster home? Oh, well, I've never actually been to a foster home, but I have reports that there are some are a little more than warehouses, and there can be several. There are requirements as to how many people there are taking care of them, sort of thing. But it is far and away more than just what CPS likes to portray of grandma and grandpa with an empty bedroom because their kids have moved out and they're helping a child in need. There are plenty of foster homes, quote unquote, that are warehouse type situations, and it is a business. This is how the people make their money, is by being foster care workers.
I mean, a lot of these kids, they don't want to be there. I know they're going to give you foster parents issues. You've got a lot of the kids that don't know what's going on, separation of families. What have you seen of that? I mean, it's as far as the anxiety levels of kids, the behavior of the kids, the depression of kids.
Mm-hmm. I think the most disturbing thing for me is that they are children are placed with other children who have problems from legitimate situations. I had one situation where my client's children were placed with children that had been sexually molested. And one of the major problems with kids that have been sexually molested is that they act out to other kids. And we are told that they will try to make sure that that's not a problem. That we'll try to make sure that the child is not placed with an older child who's been sexually molested who might take advantage of the situation. They will try, but no promises.
Now, so with the children here, it's been several months ago, while they're in foster care, medical issues came up.
Mm-hmm.
Just so happened both of them, same thing, had the same medical issue.
Right.
What can you say about that?
Well, that was prior to my coming into the situation, but it was mighty suspicious that all of a sudden both kids had to have tonsillectomies, and then when somebody started asking questions, suddenly neither of the kids needed tonsillectomies. While I don't know the facts of the situation specifically, it's pretty obvious that something other than the welfare of the children was involved in the decisions leading up to that.
You've been out to, I'm sure you've seen a few clients years after the fact, after they've got the children back, the places and all. Clean out here. You've got the bus is almost like an RV inside.
Right.
What do you think feeling with that?
Right, and that's the question I keep asking that nobody wants to answer, is why are we involved here? I took my kids camping this summer for a week. We didn't have running water. We didn't have electricity. We didn't have a proper roof over our head. We had a fabric roof over our head. Was I abusing my kids for that week? I don't think so. We got through it just fine. What about the entertainers that live on a bus while they're touring and take their kids with them? Well, that bus has a motor and it drives. This one doesn't have a motor, but they both cover food, water, shelter. So are those entertainers abusing their kids? I think not. So why exactly are we here? If you can point to something on this property that is a danger to these kids, point it out to me and we'll talk about it. And no one has done that, other than it's not conventional.
Okay. Where's this case going from here? The kids are back. What happens now?
What happens now is the parents have to go through the services that we talked about. They have to go through parenting classes. They have to go through counseling, psychological evaluation, and CPS has to give their stamp of approval on the family before they'll dismiss the case and move on.
How long down the road are you looking for dismissal on this thing?
As soon as possible, but that really depends on how long the counselor wants to take, what might be found in the psychological evaluation. I was a person that worked for one of these contractors for CPS once confided in me that nobody comes out normal on these psych evals. If we do a report and everything's normal and we have nothing to do, we don't make any money. And so somebody's got to do something. And so can't answer that question right now because it depends on factors out of anybody's control at the moment.
On psychological evaluation, I mean, these kids wouldn't come back here if there was an issue with psychological.
Well, sure. There is no even allegation that there's anything wrong mentally with anybody here. The evaluation is a fishing expedition. Let's do a psychological evaluation to see if there's some hidden problem that we can deal with while we're involved in the picture.
In the meantime, they've got who pays for these classes and who's got to take off work for these classes and pay for the fuel and go back and forth for these classes.
Well, my clients, of course, have to go through the hassle of taking the time to do them, but as far as who pays for the classes, that's you and me. That's the taxpayer.
All right. You got it. That was good.
Okay.